Welcome to How to Define LMS Requirements. I'm John Lay, CEO and Lead Analyst of Talented Learning. For today's learning objectives, we're going to provide learners what they need to know to understand the 2017 LMS market, the different types of learning management systems, and how to define your learning management system requirements like a pro. We'll introduce the 6 different types of learning management system requirements, including the business requirements, functional and functional use case requirements, the technical requirements, the professional service requirements, ongoing support, and the license model and resulting pricing requirements. By the end of today, you'll understand how to define your requirements like a pro and be able to find the best LMS for you. In 2017, there are over 700 different learning management systems. Traditionally, or historically, there was only 2 types of learning management systems, academic and corporate, and it was this way for many decades. But with the rise of the cloud and the introduction of easier or lower barriers of entry for new vendors to enter the marketplace, there's been an explosion, and hundreds have been added to the marketplace in just the last 5 to 8 years. In 2017, there's 4 types of learning management systems, and they're not completely unique. There is overlap in terms of the capabilities, which makes it more challenging for LMS buyers to determine the type of LMS they're looking at and the type of LMS they need. In today's market, there's corporate learning management systems that could be targeted at the employee or for the extended enterprise of channel partners, dealers, franchises, and customers. There's commercial or continuing education learning management systems, and these are designed specifically as e-commerce LMSs for selling to individuals and groups for-profit training organizations. There's association learning management systems, and they're designed to support the 70,000 associations that have members and potential members and selling their content to. And then finally, there's the academic LMSs, and those are the LMSs that are designed for K through 12 use or higher education use or even massive online open course use. These 4 broad types of LMSs have a whole range of vendors from dozens to hundreds that compete in each one of these broad circles. And those vendors range from vendors that are meant for your first LMS and entry-level solutions all the way to large-scale global deployments. Inside of each one of these groups, there's also vendors that provide a whole range of professional services and solution sizes in general. And so to find a matching specialist increases the buying success and the operational success of an LMS. In other words, finding an LMS that's designed to do the things that you needed to do is the surefire way to be happy with your selection and your vendor over time. The resulting way to define or find the appropriate LMS vendor out of those 700 is to define your LMS requirements like a pro. There are 6 types of LMS requirements, and prospective buyers need to go through the exercise of documenting their intended use and audiences, the functional use cases for those audiences, any technical requirements or restrictions, the expected level of professional services required, the ongoing support needed, and finally the business requirements in terms of license, how a vendor counts usage, and how they charge for that corresponding usage. By unraveling these 6 different types of requirements, it's easy to get a blueprint of exactly what you're looking for, and then easy to qualify vendors in or out as potential solutions. So let's go through each one of those. For number 1, the intended use is really designated around audiences. Is your LMS designed to support employees or franchise partners or dealers or customers or students or associations or the general public or continuing education? Document which one or ones of these that you're going to support. And secondly, if you are supporting employees or franchises or customers, then it's important to note, are they all the same? Is there different type of employee users? Is there going to be instructors or content editors? Or is there different types of franchises, gold or silver or platinum level type providers that have different access or are expected to do different things in the system. The number one thing that an LMS buyer needs to do is figure out why they're using the system and who's going to be using it on an operational basis, and that'll allow you to start sorting through the 700 possible options. Once you know who is going to use the system and what you want them to use it for, it's time to develop your functional use cases. And what that is to tell a little story in a sentence or two about a sequence of events of how the user is going to interact with the learning management system. So if you do have employee users, how are they going to use it? Is it for compliance? Is it for talent management? How are they going to find the LMS? How do they know what content to take? What functions do you expect users to do when they enter the system? And those stories, those use cases, which don't have to be big, long, belabored books, but rather just a few sentences or a paragraph on the different types of users you have and the different things that you want them to do in the system, goes a long way to fleshing out exactly what type of LMS that you'll be required. And what this results in is a focused, critical, maybe 100 or 150 different requirements that you're looking for, versus if you download a spreadsheet online of the thousands of potential LMS requirements, then organizations get into a habit of thinking they need more than they need, and it's better to start with the actual usage and what you want your users to do, and then you can buy something that fits now and you can grow with, versus buying some big behemoth of an LMS just in case you want to do something 10 years from now. Examples of functional requirements could be those functional requirements for learners or for instructors or for administrators. And they could include things like social learning or mobile learning, or requirements around virtual classroom or content assembly or instructor-led training management, or managing compliance or continuing education, as well as analytics and reporting. Going through each one of these buckets and seeing how they affect the different audiences is the next step to developing your functional requirements. The technical requirements center around the deployment model. Who's going to be hosting the system and how are they going to host it, and how secure does it need to be, and how global does it need to be? What integrations are required? An LMS is not an island. It fits within the overall ecosystem of the buying organization. So it's important to understand what system or systems the LMS is going to need to share data with and speak to. Common systems include CRM like Salesforce or Microdynamics, websites or portals or intranets, virtual classroom tools like Adobe Connect or GoToWebinar, social media, HR, HRIS or finance systems, e-commerce or global taxation systems, and overall reporting and analytics systems. It's important to document what integrations you need, because LMS vendors, some of them have productized integrations and some of them only have custom integrations or custom capability. So ideally, it's best to find vendors that have productized or can leverage productized integrations and have experience doing integrations with the LMS system or the third-party systems that you require. And finally, from a technical standpoint, there's security requirements. And these requirements are around the security of the application, the physical and logical security, whether you need background checks or personnel security, and even hiring third-party penetration tests, as well as the supporting of educational and other standards, anything from 508C to PEN, SCORM, and XAPI. The professional service requirements are those requirements or those services that you will need to set up and configure your LMS. If you are an individual that's selling content and this is your first LMS, then you may expect to have an expectation of developing content on your own and deploying the system on your own. And that's very different than if you're on your third or your fourth LMS and you have hundreds of items in your catalog and you have thousands of users and years of historical data. And so to identify if this is your first LMS or you're a veteran, or if you think that you're going to do self-service or just need a little bit help or you need a lot of bit help. And some things that come with professional services is, do you require project management and a project team and historical data migrations and potential customizations or integrations or validation services or even content or mobile or e-learning design and development services or training of different flavors on site or virtual. By defining your expectations of a project, that'll help you find LMSs or LMS solutions that are aligned with that. This is a place where LMS buyers can really go wrong, is being enamored with the functional and the technical capabilities of the system, but then finding a solution that provides too little or too much professional services is a surefire way to misalign your purchase. In 2017, based on the research of Talented Learning, there's a whole range of professional services that are available, from the free self-service all the way to the global enterprise and system integrator. And the different services that can be included in those are listed in these blocks, but it could be everything from the reactive help to strategic advice to integration support and data content migrations. So if you are on your second or third and fourth LMS, you would fall more into the right-hand side of the scale, and those that are first or have very straightforward needs would fall on the left-hand side of the scale. Ongoing support requirements are also very critical. While the implementation and setup may last 30 days or 2 weeks or 2 months or longer, this ongoing support is going to last forever. So it's important to verify what your expectations are and what the vendor provides. So support really comes in two buckets. It's either support for your administrators or the owners of the LMS, or it's support for the end learners. And so many vendors do not provide end learner support, and they make that an expectation that the client or the buyer will provide their own end learner support. So if end learner support is a requirement for your organization, it's a good differentiator to qualify in or out many vendors. Other things that may be considered as requirements in the ongoing support is the hours of the support. Do you require just Monday through Friday, or around the clock, around the year with no interruptions, 24/7? Do you want an online portal, telephone support, dedicated resources, the ability to email, instant chat, are all things to consider. What languages do you require support in? Is everybody English, or is there global variations or global areas that will require localized support? Things like whether you want user group meetings or regional meetings are important to you, or whether the LMS vendor provides a whole series of tutorials so that you can teach yourself and your future administrators how to use the system. Support requirements are paramount in understanding and setting expectations so that you'll be happy over time. Once you implement and set up your LMS, it's really too late to go back for a few years. So it's important to know what you're getting from a support standpoint. And then finally, the business requirements. These are the requirements that are associated with the vendor themselves. Is there years in service, or number of employees, or size, or industry expertise, or global location, are the type of things that matter whether you're choosing a vendor. Many buyers, in our experience and in our research, some buyers are very okay with startups and cutting edge companies because they love the service and the adaptiveness of those vendors, while other vendors other buyers rather are very risk adverse and choose to go with long-standing public organizations. So if your organization has a preference for not just LMS, but for software partners in general, it's important to uncover that and document that in your requirements process to ensure that you're disqualifying and qualifying those that you should. The second part of business requirement is the license model. In 2017, with over 700 vendors, there is no standard when it comes to license requirements or license models. License model refers to how a vendor charges for the usage of their system. It can be based on learners or active learners or employees or registrations or logging in or finishing content or purchasing content. You can pay monthly or annually or quarterly. There's a license model that you can pay up front and get a big discount. That's called perpetual, or you can buy unlimited or enterprise versions of the LMS software so you don't have to count usage at all. Defining how you are going to use the system is really critical to lining up with LMS vendors that support that particular model. So for example, if you are selling content commercially as a for-profit training organization, having a named user license model is inefficient and not practical. It's much more practical to have it tied to some sort of registration or activity in the LMS so that you're only paying for what you can use. If you have a current LMS now, it's important to go back into your LMS and run reports and document everything that you can about your usage of the system in terms of active users per month, what the users are doing in the application, how many times they're logging in a given year. As much as you can know about or document about your past usage, and as much as predictions that you can make about your future usage over the next year, 3 or 5 years, will allow you to draw a box around how you're going to utilize the system and will lend you to one or another of these licensed models based on that usage. And so it's important to do that and provide that to the vendors and ask all vendors to provide pricing solutions based on the parameters that you outline so that you have apples to apples comparison. And some other business terms to consider are length of contract, what additional users or usage would cost, payment terms of whether you pay up front or as you go after you consume it, and really any financial or insurance disclosures that would be required from your vendor prior to entering into an engagement. Anything like that, it's best to know up front if there is standards or IT standards or non-disclosure standards or payment standards, those type of things that regardless of what type of software solution your organization is buying, you have to follow those standards. It's best to identify those standards early in the sales process and communicate them to vendors as soon as you can so that they will disqualify themselves if they cannot adhere to those type of standards. And that's it. That's how you define requirements, or the main types of requirements. To wrap up, there's lots of LMS solutions in different types, and there's a range of differentiation in each type and each group of learning management systems. All of this makes it confusing for buyers to understand who's in the market, who are the type of vendors that they should be looking at, and trying to find that qualified list so they don't spend all of their time qualifying vendors, but rather evaluating qualified vendors. The best way to do that is to formally define your requirements to find the right option. And that's really focusing on those 6 areas of intended use, the functional use cases, the technical requirements, the professional service requirements, ongoing support, and business and license model requirements. Thank you, and we look forward to having you on another training session. For those of you who need an introduction to Talented Learning is a news, research, and consulting organization specializing in learning technology. We research the marketplace as independent analysts, and we share our research through blogs, webinars, and premium content. Currently, we are covering about 130 vendors on a formalized basis, and we track and catalog their features and capabilities so that we can help make matches with our clients and with the public in general to make vendors and buyers find each other based on their specific definition. We help buyers buy better at Talented Learning by doing requirements definition. We have a shortlisting service that will help you figure out requirements and point you in the right direction of the vendors that you should be talking to based on your requirements. We also offer full service selection services where we'll guide your organization through an RFP and demonstration process. And we also are the producers of the LMS Almanac, which is the most comprehensive resource in the market on learning management system and requirements. Thank you.